What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today, season 10, episode 9. And we've got Mike from Dangermuffin. Mike, thank you for hanging out, buddy.
So happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. And I know I was saying this beforehand. We got sucked into a conversation before we went live, and I was like, hold on, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. Save it for the show. But dude, I love your band so much, and I love this new record. And I got my whole family into it. Like, my wife never really loves music that I love, and I put it
Oh,
on, and she fell in love too. And I told you we went down to Charleston this past weekend, and we were hanging out. And yesterday we were supposed to fly back, and we were in like a cafe just getting like killing some time before we left to go to the airport. And we got a text saying your flight's canceled.
of course.
And yeah, and so we were like, screw it, let's just rent a car and drive home. Like 8.5 hours. That's not too bad.
It's not too.
And what do we listen to? Dangermuffin, and then podcasts on Severance. So there you go, man.
Oh, don't get me started on some Severance, man.
We can go there too, man, because I
Let's
don't
do
know.
it.
We might get into spoilers, and we shouldn't probably do that to people.
It's the only show I've ever watched where I am just can't wait to watch every episode, but I still have no idea what's going on. Somehow, how the writers did that, I have no idea. But
Yeah, dude, talk
bravo.
about really good writing. I mean, now that you work in kind of like the film and TV area, like I'm sure you're way more like, oh my God, like, because you're around it. But like, dude, that writing in that show.
It's so good. The subtleties, man. I swear to God, it's like there's times where I find myself just like you have to watch that show as a different like sort of level of casual watching. Like nothing's like just like 2x4 between the eyes. There's a subtlety to everything that if you're not like getting on that level, cerebral level with the writing of it, then you're gonna miss like important little nuggets. And I'm like ready to go back and watch it like probably 10 times before season 3 comes out because I feel like I'll probably learn all these new things.
Oh my God, dude. Have you listened to any like podcasts about Severance after the fact?
I haven't listened to any podcasts, but I did like some mild like Reddit dives on some Severance theories and all that. It helped connect some dots for me. Things I sort of knew, but I didn't like really absorb, or maybe I wasn't confident enough to say yes, that was what I saw.
Right.
Because it's just so much to follow sometimes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I feel like in the one podcast that we listen to is called Streaming Things, and they do a bunch of different TV and film. Like they've gone back and they're like redoing like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But the one guy, based on what you just said, the one guy was like, yeah, this is not a show where I can go to the fridge and make a charcuterie board and sit down and eat while you watch it. You have to be in
Yeah.
it. You have to be. Because if you don't, you miss it. You miss something. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
so good. So good. If anyone hasn't watched it, and if you haven't, you're living under a rock. But it's worth buying the subscription to Apple TV just to watch it. And we are not sponsored. Mike and I are not sponsored by Apple TV, but you should
No,
get
sir.
it.
No, sir.
But anyway, Mike, so love the band. I want to get into all that. I want to get into the history of that because Dan and I didn't really dig too deep into like the origin story. Like what is your like with
Okay.
great power comes great responsibility kind of thing.
Yeah.
But before we go there, what is your earliest musical memory?
Well, honestly, there was this one, I took trumpet in like elementary school, and then it started trickling into middle school until I got bored with it, and then I gave it up. And so that's the first time I like actually tried to focus on a musical instrument. I didn't love it though. I didn't. But the one highlight of that, and I'm really proud of myself for doing this, is they give you these musical books at the beginning of the year, and you end up like learning a handful of them over the course of the year. But there's always like the whole 75% of the book that you just, maybe they expect you to be like a really studious person and go sift through that stuff yourself. But if I wasn't assigned it, I wasn't going to go look through that. So, I'm sorry, if I was 10 years old, I just wasn't going to like go read ahead in my schoolwork or whatever. But I did that with one of my books, and I found Auld Lang Syne, the New Year's Eve song, right? And I took my trumpet out on New Year's Eve in my neighborhood, just out the back, in the backyard of our neighborhood, and just played Auld Lang Syne, you know, all the way through. And I feel like I nailed it. And I feel like it was the first time I learned how to like perform music, because I practiced it. I knew the notes. I'd stumble here and there, and I was like, okay, I could get through this. We'll see what happens. But then when it was like time, and it was like 12 or 11:59, whatever, and I'm like ready to go, it was like something came through me, and I was like, I projected it in a way it was my first performance. And so that was huge for me, even though I didn't come back to music for another 10 years, really. It wasn't until I was in college that I started picking up guitar and expressed an interest in playing music again, at all. So
Really?
yeah, so I was like probably 19 years old in college, and like my buddy had this acoustic guitar sitting in our dorm room that he never played, and I was not, I had no idea how to play, just futzing around with it. And this guy Matt that lived down the hall from me, he had a guitar, and he'd play, I don't know, Dixie Chicks and Pearl Jam and whatever you play in the 90s when acoustic guitar or whatever, like Indigo Girls, I don't know, right?
Yeah, man.
Violent Femmes, all these fun like 90s bands. And I was like, man, I want to learn that. We didn't have the internet yet. This was still the 90s. There was no YouTube. There was no, guitartabs.com. So I had to kind of learn everything by hand or buy like some books. I was big into Dave Matthews. So I'd buy like a Dave Matthews book. I bought a Metallica book, and I'm just dun 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 dun, dun, trying to learn Nothing Else Matters, all the open strings. I was like, I can do this. And I realized how hard it is just to like play in time, even if you're not fretting with your left hand, just the right hand stuff. I'm like, okay. So I just got super interested in the guitar, and then I got obsessed, and then I started practicing like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Mm.
And gosh, yeah, man, first band was like probably my senior year of college. I was like 21, 22.
Man.
It's just bad covers, Red Hot Chili Peppers and Fish. That's when I was like really into Fish. I know you're a big Fish head.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
Yeah.
Trey. How can you not be a fan of Trey?
Dude, people shit on that guy. And I'm like, I don't know why. I mean, I'm like, he's one of the most talented guitarists alive today.
Absolutely. I get it now that I'm older and I don't listen to Fish a lot. Their songs, it's this whimsical sort of thing that I get. It's not for everybody. It's not a Van Morrison song, that's for sure. It's just it's not in that realm that some people don't connect with. But dude, Trey his guitar playing is so emotive and inventive, and he plays 3 notes and it's him. It's like there's only like a handful of guitar players that can do that.
Right. Like him and Derek Trucks and like
right?
BB King. Like, I mean, it's
sure.
like, yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, you can't even say like Stevie Ray Vaughan or John Mayer, because they're just borrowing from their heroes, really, but he has this touch that like it just blew me away. So he was one of my first primary influences on guitar, was Trey, for sure.
Man, you dove in the deep end, man, right away. Like for not playing, for that large, because I started playing when I was 12. So like to wait till you're in college and to like get that deep in the weeds with it. I mean, you must have got bit by the bug, dude.
It was like this spread of like 90s stuff, like like I said, like the Violent Femmes, some Pearl Jam, some gosh, I was listening to like Sting and like Toad the Wet Sprocket, and I don't know, just like 90s stuff.
Big Head Todd and the Monsters.
Big Head Todd,
a
little
dude.
Bittersweet, yeah. And so I was learning, that was more like my chordal learning, to learn like, see if I can make it through a song on chords. Maybe my buddy down the hall, my buddy Steve, he was my roommate for a while. He would sing, especially the Pearl Jam stuff. He was a huge Eddie Vedder fan, so I'd try to learn some Pearl Jam songs. That's Vedder?
Yeah, that's Eddie.
Such a legend.
Yeah.
So me and Steve, dude, he pushed me, he pulled me through a lot. My first electric guitar was the one I borrowed from him, in our band, because I didn't even have an electric guitar yet.
Nice.
So, man, it was the lead guitar. That's the big trigger there. Is like it was learning the songs and the fundamentals, and I was good about that. I don't know why. I was just a good student, you know. But like it was the leads. I wanted to play David Gilmour, and I wanted to play Trey, and I wanted to play Tim Reynolds guitar solos on Dave Matthews stuff, and whatever else, you know. It just was so fascinating to me to make the guitar like sing the way they did, you know. And I didn't even understand overdrive and distortion in the way I had an acoustic guitar at that point. So I'm like, how in God's name does he hit that note and it just goes, what? I'm like, this guitar doesn't do it. It sounds
Right.
you know. So that was all just so fascinating to me, and that was where the passion really kicked in. It was just lead guitar early on for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you still have a horn? Do you still play horn at all?
No, I wish, man. Now that I'm like scoring movies and producing, you know, indie music and stuff like that, I'm like, man, I use a lot of software instruments. On my I can't see it here, but I got a 70 key MIDI keyboard, you know, and I'm just sitting at this thing all day, like, you know, composing, and I write horn parts and stuff like that and anything else. And so it's like, man, I'm like, man, I wish I could write this part and then actually pick up a real horn and put some expression into it, you know, and perform it. But I don't know, these lips, they aren't ready for that.
The amateur is just tired. Yeah, I hear you,
These
man.
lips,
Yeah.
it would be awesome. I mean, gosh, I feel like I just need to duplicate my life and go back and learn cello and, you know, some grand piano and some trumpet, whatever else, man. It's all so good.
That is so cool, though. I mean, I love stories where people get started a little bit later. Now, I mean, obviously, 19, you're still a kid. I mean, I think when you're in your 20s, you're still a kid, right? But like, that is impressive that you really kind of, and like, those are not easy bands that you mentioned that you're learning. Like, playing Dave stuff is not easy. Like, so that probably puts you in school real quick.
It is, man. And I still fumble through that stuff sometimes. I mean, you know, it just Dave in particular, so underrated as a guitar player, man. He's not just doing the GDC, you know, like Garth Brooks, whatever, you know, like I don't know. Where did Garth Brooks just come? How did I come up with that name?
No, that was good shade to throw. That was fine.
Yeah, sorry, Garth. No, I mean, you know, just his partial chords and his like rhythmic, the muting and all the stuff that he would do. Really just mind-blowing stuff, man.
Yeah. What's your favorite Dave record?
I mean, it's the older stuff. You know, Under the Table and Dreaming is kind of the one that pulled me in, but man, you know what was such a good record, and it was never even released. It's the Lily White sessions. So he recorded. So remember that album that he did? Who did he do it with? It was Every Day. I think it was called Every Day, or maybe that was the hit. It was like early 2000s. So right before that, he recorded a record, a lot of the same songs, some different, with Steve Lillywhite, the producer. And I don't know how this happened. It was like early internet, and somehow that record got leaked on the internet. Maybe it was Napster or LimeWire or something. I can't remember, but I got a hold of it, and it was very dry, underproduced, very just kind of straight into the board sounding, you know, like just rough mix, no effects, like it was just like beautiful music. Man, I wish I could go back and hear that record right now, because I feel like I'd have a new appreciation for it. But
yeah. Did you get a chance to see him a bunch?
Yeah, back around then a few times for sure.
Okay.
A lot of his like stuff, I don't even know if it went on records, but all his like numbered songs, number 40, number 41, and you know, all these, I don't even know if those ended up on records, but I had all of his live stuff that he did, and like the live stuff was really cherry.
Yeah.
Especially like, you know, when you had Tim Reynolds sitting in, and God, he's such a killer guitar player.
It's so cool to hear the story of that band too, and like that, like the residency stuff, and like the slamming players that are in his band, like. And he even talks about that in interviews, you know, where he's been like, I don't know how I'm playing with these guys.
Right? Like, how did he just happen upon Carter Beauford and, you know, Stefan Lessard and Leroy Moore and Boyd Tinsley? That was like the original band. I think Leroy passed away. They've been, that was maybe pushing 10 years now, I would say.
if not more, man. I
if not
remember
more.
we saw him. I was a senior in high school, and we went to the Fish show at Virginia Beach Amphitheater. That was the show where Leroy came out and played like two saxes, and then Trey had two guitars on, and like they were doing all this weird stuff. But I remember being like, "Who's that guy?" And they're like, "Have you ever listened to the Dave Matthews Band?" I was like, "No." I'm like,
Right?
"That dude's in the Dave Matthews Band." I was like, "I don't know what that is, but sure." And like that same show, I saw a dude walking past. My buddy and I were walking past. This guy had a Mo shirt on, and we were like, "What's Mo?" And he told us. And then, dude, that point I jumped ship from Fish and went to Mo. Like I was a huge Chuck
I went,
Garvey's like one of my
dude.
heroes,
I
man.
went through a huge Mo fan too. I used to be Team Chuck, and then I switched. The other guy, the glasses guy, I forgot his name
Al,
right now. Al, yeah. I switched to Al for a minute because I thought he was a little more quirky.
he's
Um,
rookie.
and yeah, dude, I was a huge Mo fan for a while. Those guys invited us, Dangermuffin, to do their snow down and their mow down festivals. So like early 2000s, mid 2000s, I should say. God, maybe not. When did we? I guess we put out Moonscapes in 2010. That's when we did like some of our heavier national touring. So it's probably closer to 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But they were consistently inviting us to their events. And turns out bass player, singer guy, I forgot his name now, not Rob. He was a fan. He did an interview with a big magazine. I don't think it was Rolling Stone or maybe it was Relics. He said, and they asked him straight up, favorite up and coming band, and he said Dangermuffin.
Oh, that's
it's
super
really cool. We did an opening show for them at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach, and at that point we hadn't done a lot of big venues yet, and so that was very prestigious and awesome, and we're like expecting them to be like holier than thou and too cool for school, but they like literally came and checked on us and like knocked on the door and like, hey guys, hope you're having a good time. If you need anything, just come hang. We're just hanging. They were just like so hospitable, and I was like, wow. Even to this day, like now that I have played a lot of large venues and hung around a lot of bigger artists over my career, like it's rare to find people that do that go out of their way to like be hospitable like that.
They're good dudes. They're really good dudes.
And I get it now. I also see it from both sides. Sometimes you're just kind of tired, you're conserving your energy, you're focusing, you're like, I gotta learn these songs, I've gotta write a set list, I gotta do all these things, and you're like, it's not that I'm want to be mean to the opening band, I just I feel like I need my own space for a minute. So I get it. But
yeah, no, for sure, man. Well, let's shift gears then, because so here's baby Mike learning the guitar, listening to all this music, soaking it in, getting it in your DNA and in your hands. At what point do you and Dan meet, and what's the origin story of Dangermuffin?
Yeah, that's a solid question. So I moved to Charleston in 2003 or 4. And I was kind of in between some casual bands at the time, and so I didn't have anything big going on, so needed a transplant to Charleston. And I had a pretty good friend that lived there who I had played some music with before, and he said, I've got this new friend, we should go see him play. He's playing at this bar. And we go to this bar. It's just like a casual taco shop that's a bar, on Sullivan's Island, called Poe's, like Edgar Allan Poe. And we go out to see Dan, who happens to be playing there with an acoustic duo, like him and another guy. And he's playing like all these really kind of hip but like funky sort of covers, and things in the folky, poppy, like funky realm, but like hip, cool stuff. Like things like Martin Sexton and Jack Johnson, and like kind of stuff with like a bounce to it. Wasn't like super folky, like he'd occasionally bust out the folky stuff, but he still had like this like tightness to it. Like that was like, man, this guy's like rhythm is solid, And I was like, I want to play. I want to play with this guy. So I swear to God, the next I hung out with him. He, and he's just super cool dude. And we hung out a few more times, and the next thing you know, we're hanging out at Poe's again, and his guitarist that he plays with at the gig was having like some kind of personal crisis or something, and he had to like walk out. I think he was just really upset, and something was going on. He had to walk out literally mid show, and Dan was like, "Why don't you come up? Why don't you come and play the guitar?" I was like, "All right," and dude, that was kind of history. Like I just, it's like this yin yang thing. He's holding down the 1 and the 3, and I'm painting around the 2 and the 4, and like just kind of like jiving together. And it was very effortless and natural to find that groove, together. The whatever, right? You call that the two sections that kind of don't just support each other, but like multiply each other, that kind of thing. And so we just started playing a lot more. We're like, let's start a band. I was like, as long as we can play Comfortably Numb, I'm in,
And like how taken aback were you by his voice?
Yeah, so good, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's so different and so interesting, and it makes you lean in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, dude, 100%. Absolutely. I should have said that first, but it's just like thinking about what I think about musically. It was just like just such a good match. I mean, I didn't feel like I had to rethink musically what I was doing. Like, if I joined a country band or if I reggae band, I feel like I'd have to like rethink my whole approach and sort of, be learning experience. And it would be great and fun and awesome as well. But it was like with Dan, it was like everything had this hybrid, like funky, sort of alternative indie Americana thing to it that like was just like original music off the get-go. It was like, we're not going to try to play things note for note. We're just like, we're going to get our own vibe,
Yeah.
And that was really really how it started. And we formed the band, and a couple people moved away, and finally we had a solid 3-piece. It was just a trio, me and Dan and a drummer named Jim Donnelly, and we were just playing bars 4 nights a week in Charleston, playing half covers and half original songs, or maybe more covers than that actually. But and yeah, I was just playing electric guitar. Dan was playing like his acoustic hybrid electric acoustic kind of guitar, and just like kind of like fattening up the bass, like the low end on this guitar, which is so punchy and like tight that he could just be the quasi bass player for the band.
Was that the Godin? Like, did he already have that at that point?
So yeah, it's funny because I actually gave him his first Godin. He had a I can't remember what he had way back in the day, but I had a Godin. I had a Godin A6 and or an Acousticaster maybe. I can't remember. They were similar, and he would just play his acoustic guitar at first, and just kind of crank the bass, and that was cool. But then once he started playing my Godin, he was hooked, and then he bought his own, and sky's the limit from here. Now he's got the custom one with the octave drop built in and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. And that's what I love about it too, because when I heard you guys coming over the PA and I asked my friend about it, and he said there was no bass player, I was like, what? And he was like, just listen, like the one guy's playing like an acoustic, but like for some reason it's got like a pitch shift on those bottom 2 strings.
Yeah.
And then when Dan was on it and he explained that pickup, I was like, that is really rad. And it's you can hear it. And I've been spreading the gospel of Dangermuffin for the past several months, just like posting clips and just like, and I'm sorry I'm late. I mean, I would have been doing it the whole time. But like even listening to Homestead, that one, it's so fucking funky. Like you guys are just at that show and that particular performance, because I'll go in and find older ones. I'm like, I want to see how this evolved over time. I'm like that kind of a musicologist in a way. But what I found very interesting is how tight and like funky and how deep the pocket is. Because I'm that way too, man. Like even I do solo acoustic gigs, I'm the drummer too. I have to be. I have to make people dance with this one thing, right?
Sure.
And you guys do that so well. Like there is this like deep pocket that's just bouncing the whole time.
Yeah.
And that song is a very good representation of you guys pulling that off. Without, a four string, playing beneath everything. It's astounding. It's like, how are they doing this? Like the groove is so thick, and that low kind of register stuff that Dan's doing is popping, like just like if there was a dude up there playing a J bass,
It is, man. The way he plays guitar. It's hard to explain, but it is. It's like he's playing bass, drums, and guitar all at the same time, kind of. Like it's just like he's not just kind of zing, 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 zing. He's like boom, boom, boom. Like I mean, he's throwing in little ghost notes and stuff, and it's like a lot of that stuff gets lost in Dangermuffin with the drummer and everyone else surrounding it. But yeah, it's super cool, man.
it's
And
so cool.
he'll sit down on a kit and he can drop a beat too, and he can pick up a bass guitar and lay it down too. So it's like he's just kind of fusing that in a lot of times all together.
Yeah, it's in his DNA. You can kind of tell.
Yeah.
It's just how early. So like from that first gig when he was like, "Hey, come on up here and play with me." Like
Yeah.
how soon after that were you guys collaborating and writing original music?
I mean, immediately. I mean, okay, so here's why. We got together a few times and he wanted to start a band, and so, I wanted to start a band too. So, that was the motivation. And turns out, uh, his really good friends, these guys, Don and Kyle, and him, were all about to move in together into this house. And miraculously, I was looking for a place to live at the same time, and there was an open spot in the house. So we all moved in a house together. Just perfect timing of everything, man, And so we're all of a sudden we're roommates starting a band, and next thing you know, fast forward 20 years plus, and we're business partners times two, and whatever else.
Right?
Yeah.
That's so great. And what a great place to start that. Like I've never been to Charleston. That was my first time this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a killing band. My wife and I went to dinner at Rita's in Folly Beach
Oh, hell yeah.
one night. And oh my God, the food there too. Like every place we ate was so, so good. But that night, there was a band playing. There was no drummer. It was two electric guitars, bass, and this woman was singing, and super, super jammy.
Mm.
And what I liked about it was they did a lot of original stuff. I could tell they were doing a lot of original stuff, but then they would throw in like Ramble On, and
Oh, nice.
she would sing the hell out of it. And
I probably know the people who it is. Like, it's funny. I'm super curious.
probably Gracie. It was, I think their banner said something like
Gracie.
Gracie something. I don't know, but like what was very cool to me is in Baltimore, there's no hip spots where you're going to dinner and there's like a jammy band like improvising, doing stretched stuff and keeping people's attention. There seems to be something going on in Charleston.
Dude, Charleston music scene is so solid, dude. I mean, Dan will say this over and over again. He just kind of moved back to Charleston from Asheville, and man, it is like nothing else. The scene there, just the sheer number of gig opportunities. It's not, it's like you said, there's so much talent there. There's so much just chill and creativity. It's like there's no pressure to do a specific thing. I mean, dude, we started our whole career just playing like restaurants and bars, and like I said, at first it was mostly covers, and then we sneak in more and more originals. Record an album, and now we're gonna play those too. Next thing you know, when we're playing our ticketed shows, it's like our following is coming from the people that would go and admittedly, we're hanging out too, we're getting drunk, we're whatever. These are like our friends in our community. So it's like a social experience too. And Charleston is just such a social town. I mean, it's a very friendly place, and that, the music scene just blossoms because of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like it. Did you guys kind of work your way up? And when was like the first time you played the Poorhouse and sold it out or whatever? Was it like a big, like, we've made it kind of thing?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if we've technically ever sold it out, but we've certainly come close. And if maybe we did once, I don't know. But it's just that the venue itself has evolved so much over the years too. It's like we'd play there on like a Tuesday night back in 2005, and we'd lucky to get 100 people out or whatever. And then we opened for all these cool bands touring through. Like we opened for George McConnell one time. He was the part-time Widespread Panic guitar player in between Mikey and Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like super sweet, and I don't know, just things like that. So we were like literally the opener for a couple hundred people, and then over the years, yeah, like we'd start to get nervous and be like, wow, this is like our big deal show, like we gotta bring it, and
Yeah.
we'd get out there and people just screaming and singing the words, and it's like, what a cool feeling, right?
Yeah, that's so dope.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about let's get into some nerdy guitar stuff, because I love your tones on all the records. Like, you get the greatest stuff. The latest record, that big bombastic solo in Mountains on the end of the tune.
Yes.
Let's start there, and then let's go backwards and tell me how your rig has evolved. Was
Love
that
it.
your heritage?
That's the heritage. That's this guitar. Oh, still plugged in. Man, so let me just give you a quick. Yeah, it's a Heritage H150 custom with. It's hard to see, but the checking on this thing, it looks like it's from the 1950s. It's just hard to see. It's like a texture thing.
You can see it a little bit.
You can see it a little bit, but holy crap! Over the years, man, I was always more of like a long scale, like a Fendery, like Strats, Tellys, loved that. Then I fell into humbuckers for a while. And man, I was playing like hollow bodies for so long. A big part of it was because of Trey. And I've got several hollow bodies that are still some of my favorite guitars. But I bought this guitar before we recorded that new album because I was like, you know what? I've really never owned like a Les Paul and like loved it. And I need to just dive in, and I think I'm going to love it. I just need to give it a chance, And after a bunch of research, realizing Heritage makes a better Gibson Les Paul than Gibson does. I mean, dude, this is a phenomenal instrument. I've played some really nice Gibsons. This will hang with any of them.
Dang.
And dude, it has this thing, right, where the volume knob is like its own pedal, dude. I swear to God, just when you're all the way up, it sounds like you kicked on an overdrive. And if you just back off one notch, it's like you turn the overdrive off. And then if you back up one more notch, it's almost like you switch to single coils.
Whoa.
So it's like there's so much subtlety in the volume knobs on these things that it's so incredible, dude. I just love that.
How's the neck, Mike? Is it a beefy neck or is it like a slim tapered?
I am a sucker for extreme beefy. And this I would say is medium.
Okay.
It's so I've got like a 51 Telly that has like a massive neck. I mean, it's like and this is not that. But it's, I don't know. I get, I would imagine if the Telly is close to an inch, this is probably more like, 8/10 of an inch or something like that. 0.8. Just guessing. So thicker than a modern, taper kind of, but not stupid beefy.
Okay.
But just it's heavy. It's a very heavy guitar. It's close to 10 pounds. And like, even though that can be uncomfortable here and there, and it's like people say lighter guitars are better and stuff like that, it gives the girth. There's a real palpable girth to the way these notes jump off the fretboard on this thing, man. And once I got used to just this guitar, and started recording with it, in pre-production for the album, I was like, I'm just gonna play this guitar on every song, and no regrets, man. And dude, we push mountains, so that that tone is essentially I'm running through a Marshall Blues Breaker emulator pedal by Menatone. It's called the Menatone Blues. I don't have it on my board currently. I think it's up there. Let me go get that.
So it's basically like a blues breaker, kind of like in the sense of like the Blues Breaker pedal by Marshall, or like JHS Morning Glory kind of vibe.
Exactly. So it's called
Okay.
Working Man's Blue, and it's basically,
I love
dude,
that.
Menatone makes awesome pedals. He's had to repair a few of mine because I have several that I've owned for like almost 20 years. Um, so yeah, it's like, full tone stack. You just dial it in like you would an amp, and let's not forget how awesome my amp is either.
Okay.
Dr. Z Z28. It's a prototype. So literally, it's a serial. It's not serial number one. It's serial number prototype. Like dude built this thing before he even started selling them.
Wow.
I don't know how I ended up with it. It was a secondhand find that it's this one right here, this head.
I've seen it on stage, and I always wondered because there's no grill cloth on it or anything, right?
Well, it used to be in a 410 combo, almost like a super reverb, right? Beautiful amp. It was this color combo too, like this Vox, where it's that blonde sort of combo. Beautiful amp. I don't know why it was wrong with me, but I thought it would be better if I took it out of the combo and I just made that out of like 4 pieces of wood and screwed them together. I'm not a carpenter. It's very simple, basic. There's no grill on the front or the back. I just have a soft case that I put over it to travel, and then it just lives open like that. And yeah, dude, it's just like a 20-ish watt amp that's it's got like this Fox Marshall Fender hybrid going on. I don't know, for lack of a better term, but there's something about like the mid-range presence on that amp that's like, it never sounds bad. It never sounds like shrill. It never sounds thin. It just always sounds good no matter what. And it is honestly the best amp on the planet. I'm convinced. So
When did you
that
get
amp
it?
does a lot of heavy lifting for me because all my pedals just through that amp, it's just like the pedal just, it's like it was made for that amp. It just, you can't get a bad sound,
Right.
It's so awesome.
When did you get it? Like
I
right
bought
before
that,
the
like,
record?
Right? No, I've had that for a long time. I bought it right when I moved to Charleston, essentially.
Oh.
And I when it was still a big combo amp, I was playing it with Dan in our first band before it was even Dangermuffin. We were called the VJ Sings. Dumb. I don't know.
Who suggested Dangermuffin?
So we had this. So the house that we moved in, me and the buds. That was when the band was starting, and we had this whiteboard on our fridge, and we were like, anybody who has ideas for band name, let's put them on the whiteboard. We need to get a collection going and make this a discussion. And we were cooking. I swear to God, we were cooking dinner one night, and we had these cabinets, these like 10-foot ceilings or whatever, where the cabinets were like really high, where you put like storage that you don't use often. And I was pulling down a stack of plates, and so I had to climb up on the counter and grab the plates and hand them down to someone. And as I was doing that, I noticed that one of the plates had this like chip out of it that was like literally the shape of like the muffin logo. Like, no joke, this is real. And I was like, oh, watch out for that Dangermuffin, and all in casual nature, somebody goes and writes Dangermuffin on the dry erase board. Awesome. And through much deliberation and bad band names, somehow Dangermuffin just won the sweepstakes, man. It cut through.
I love it. I mean, it's like one of those band names where you're like, hold on, what'd you say? And they're like, oh, okay. All right. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those band names that just like hits you right.
We liked the whimsy and the sort of paradoxical, the muffin is not danger, the paradox of the two words. There was a early philosophy that we were like, well, we're playing kind of like folk songs, but we're kind of jamming them out, and so it's like the mixing of the muffin of the folk with the dangerous. Right? I don't know. That wasn't the concept that went into naming the band. That was like, how do we describe this to people that think we're crazy?
Right.
So
it's a great band name in terms of marketing. There's a lot you can do with that thing. It's a lot.
We've had a hard time figuring that out for the last 20 years. I'm not gonna lie. People are like, what the hell's a Dangermuffin? We're like,
I don't know, man. All right, so you're going through. So what you said you were using was that Blues Breaker pedal. You're
Yes.
going into
So
that amp.
so for We Push Mountains in particular, I wanted a kind of martially growl. So I got a great sound into this pedal first. With the volume on the guitar probably somewhere in the 9 range, for most of the song. Um and then when I attempt to kick on that solo, I would kick on a my Timmy overdrive. Classic, modern day classic Timmy overdrive. If you don't know what overdrive to get, it's no better place to start. With a little kind of mid boosted, kind of tube screamer-ish setting, I would say. A little bit of a volume boost, and I had that before this, and so I kicked that on and turned the volume all the way up. As I was sliding up, just wow, getting to that note, man. It's pretty much like this Trey meets Warren Haynes kind of sound, where it's just I could have probably hit that note and just let it ring out, and it would have just
Yeah.
taken off,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just more bite than the typical Trey sound from that. I think from that Marshall sort of pedal, just a little sloppier. Like it's hitting this thing so hard at that point because the pickup's juiced and the overdrive is juicing it, that it's like collapsing a little bit. So when you hit the sound, it's like like
Yeah, man.
that feel is, it's, if you haven't ever played with an amp that's like just turned up that loud, it's like it just changes the instrument, man. It's like literally the difference between picking up a new instrument, because it's no longer like what notes are you hitting. It's like this, it's part of your body now. It's like, what are you thudding and scratching, and what are you like muting with your hand so that everything's not just going that's pretty much what it would be if you just let it go, right? So it's just, there's like a whole subtlety to, and sloppiness together, like this is just,
Yeah.
it's super fun.
That imploding thing is pretty awesome.
Such a good feeling.
Mike, were you right in front of your amp when you were recording this, or were you in the control room?
So I was not in front of my amp. We were in a huge live room at Echo Mountain in Asheville. Beautiful, amazing studio. Drummer had some baffles, but open air, mostly just drums. And then Andrew and I were kind of sitting across from each other with our pedal boards and everything, and our amps were in closets, basically. And then Dan was, also same thing, just kind of singing into a, scratch vocal mic, and all plugged into amps that are kind of in their own rooms, isolated, mostly isolated. So, yeah, dude, it's I know what your next question is going to be. It's like, is there a difference between playing a guitar with an amp that's like right there giving you that air and that pressure right in the room with you, and it being in another room and you're just listening in headphones, right? And the answer is absolutely. Mm-hmm. I would preferred to have been able to like go back and put those amps in the live room and crank them up. I was running through 2 amps actually. This Tweed amp I was running a stereo kind of rig.
Oh, cool.
That Z28, is just this wasn't bringing anything to the table. I don't think that I would say would be that noticeable. It's just a great Tweed style amp. And the Z28, I'd say, it did the heavy lifting. But yeah, man. Okay. I was really happy with the tones on that. And
so good, man. So good. And Dan was telling me a little bit about how you guys were trying to capture this as a live feel. Like basically all those tracks were just those were keepers.
For the most part, what we would do each song is, we'd run through it once or twice and say, okay, well, we need to tighten up this area, or what if we try cutting this out? And then we'd run it through it once or twice more, and we'd be like, all right, I think we got it. Let's run it a few times. And so we just maybe play it 3-4 times through, and pretty much we're done. Like, we move on, because at that point, between those 3-4 takes, we played to a click, so things were interchangeable. So if I said, man, take 3 felt so good, but I kind of messed up that end of that verse, and Andrew, it was like I didn't like my solo, or so we would just pull maybe his solo from another take, or I would just substitute one of my parts that I messed up from another take or whatever. So, but it was basically live. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
dude.
And
Yeah.
that whole record, and I'm gonna just blow some smoke at you, buddy. Is a masterpiece. I mean, the
Oh,
songs on that record from start to finish, like this is one of those records I would put in my faves of those kinds where you don't have to skip a tune. You
oh
know?
man, I'm so happy to hear that because I get Spotify depression from seeing that like the first song always has the most plays, and the second song has the less, and then as you get to the end of the album, you're like nobody's even hearing these songs, and it's like makes me sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people need to listen to those because you're missing out on a shit ton. Because I feel like even like the first, like I remember the first time I listened to this, and usually I don't know when you listen to music, but I listen when I'm cooking most of the time. And I'm the cook in the house. So like I
Same.
remember, yeah, I remember making dinner, just listening to it, and it was like tune after tune after tune. I was just caught up in it. I felt like it
Hmm.
was something that I had missed out on. I felt sad that I had missed out on like all this time that I could have been seeing you guys, or even crossing paths when I was gigging and touring more.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting back into now. But it's just there's a joy in this record that is so palpable. And like Omaha is one of my favorites. I told Dan, I think Iris is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard.
Oh,
It's hard to not fall into loving that chorus, though. The chord progression is like the archetype of making you happy and making you feel something. But you guys really put out a fucking great record, and I hope you guys keep. I told Dan, I was like, don't you guys stop playing music, man, because now that I'm here, I will be there and I will bring a crew.
let me tell you a memory I have from the studio. So in the process of recording these songs, we'd get those few takes, and then we'd all say, all right, let's take 5 and go give a lesson, and we'd all put our instruments down, walk into the control room and listen on the big speakers, and just kind of make sure that we're all getting our bearings and taking a breather and get stretch and whatever else. And I remember distinctly when we listened back to Iris, like I felt, and the engineer, Josh Blake, felt at that moment. We were just like, this is the single, like Iris. This is the song. Like this is the one that's just like has that feeling right away that it's there. I don't think we ended up releasing it as a single at all. So part of me wonders if enough people have even heard that song
Oh
yet.
man,
But man, yeah, I think it's definitely one of my favorites too. It just has this like nostalgic, lovely sound, and it's such a cool.
tell me about the spring reverb tank thing on there. Were you just like muting and just getting that spring?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. I ended up doing that over the course of a couple takes because I wanted to make sure that I got those,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know. I didn't want it to be too predictable of a pattern, so it's not like too. If you listen to it from a composition's perspective, you'll realize like I'm not necessarily patterning anything exactly. Really in any song on that record is I'm always creating some subtle differences to try to carry the tune a little bit. But man, I'll tell you something about the solo at the end of that track too. I used this fuzz pedal, and one of my buddies that listened to it said, the ending reminds me of a horn part, like a horn solo or whatever.
I can see
And
that.
man, sometimes a fuzz pedal can do that. It just gives like a I don't know how to explain it on the guitar. It just
There's
sort
like
of
a
takes.
nasally mid-range thing, that it does.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
it brought out this melodic solo. I did not write that solo. I didn't write any of my solos, man. I do not pre-write solos. Like I maybe have a few ideas of like a couple waypoints along the way where I want to like maybe get to, but the path is never constructed for me. Never play it the same way twice ever. So
Hmm.
it
I
just
think that's
comes
the way it
out,
should be, man.
I do
Yeah.
too, man. Life is too short to be writing solos.
Right.
Like that.
We
Unless
should
you're
put that shit on a t-shirt. Life is too short for writing solos. I mean, it's true. I feel the same. But the blueprint of it, like where you want to be on the neck when you start and when you finish.
sure.
Sure. Okay. But yeah, everything on there, and it's so sonically beautiful where things are sitting. I feel like every record you guys have done, even like early stuff when Dan was telling me you were doing it in a shack,
Right.
like you guys really mastered the art. He said that has a lot to do with you getting stuff to sit right.
I've been literally, that first record that we put out was called Bermuda. We did it in our drummer Jim, his sort of little kind of finished garage in the back of his house, little mother-in-law suite, whatever you want to call it. It's basically, I guess you call it a shack, right? So he sort of converted it into a studio, and at that point he only had a handful of mics, and he just had a laptop, and we just were using Logic, and we didn't really know what we were doing, but that was like a big part of what got me and all of us really to dig in heavier, into, I mean, dude, I've been recording into computers and DAWs since I first started guitar. I mean, I figured out how to adapt my guitar down to a little 1/8-inch jack and plug it in the back of my Packard Bell, tower in like 1997. Right. Like, dude, so I've been doing recording for quite a long time, but it wasn't really until that record where I started to like, okay, this multi-tracking thing and like understanding the subtleties of compression and EQ and reverb, and digging into more production ideas, and just getting in there and getting creative with overdubs and being like that, put an electric guitar in Dan's hand and saying, dude, we need a chunk on the 2 and the 4, I want you to play it. And he'd be like, I don't play electric guitar. I'm like, you do now, stuff like that. It's so fun for me. Yeah, dude. And now gosh, I feel like I do that all day, every day now. I'm just engineering and producing music full time,
Man.
So.
Well, it shows. And tell me a little bit about, Morning Moon and like how you guys
dark here, so I'm gonna lighten it up.
Nice.
Oh, that's too light. Oh,
I'm just so curious how you guys got into doing this. And and obviously when we were talking before, COVID has a lot of like pivoting moments for a lot of people.
Pretty much timed it up perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, is that how things got started with Morning Moon?
We actually started before COVID, luckily enough. So one of the guys that I moved into the house with Dan, in Charleston back in 2005 was this guy Kyle, who has since been the one who started Morning Moon Productions. So he has a love for film and TV, and so it was just his lifelong dream to build a team to start producing films and TV shows. And so we, Dan and I were an early part, literally founding, part of the music team of Morning Moon, which started out, just total exploratory in terms of, do we want to be a record label? Do we want to produce other artists? Do we want to sign artists, try to synchronize music into film and TV? Do we want to try to score films? All this, right? Which we've done a little bit of all that over the years here now. And so.
Oh no, I lost you, Mike. I think he might have accidentally logged out, or his camera died. We will see. Let's see if we can get him back. In the meantime, I'm going to put, BB, thanks for popping these links in the chat. So for anybody that is on Spotify or Apple Music, morningmoon.com, that's the production company we're talking about right now. And Dangermuffin Music is Dangermuffin's website, where you can get t-shirts and all that good stuff. Here he is.
I'm back. I don't know what happened, but I think my internet just hiccuped or something.
That's all good, man.
Let me back in.
I just vamped. It's all good. So yes,
planned that.
I improvise. I don't write solos, but we do improvise, right?
Every time.
So where were you saying?
So early Morning Moon projects. A big part of it was me and Dan learning. Man, like, let's get techie for a sec, but like music production and recording techniques, and being able to use software instruments and being able to compose music that wasn't Dangermuffin, right? Being able to be like, okay, this isn't, alternative roots rock stuff where it's all microphones that are capturing the music, but instead it was like, we can compose drum beats with drum machines. We can compose orchestral pieces with orchestras. And so learning that was really fun part of the process early on. And that's where I kind of went down my crazy hole of, I took some courses. I did some studio recording tutelage so that I could work in bigger studios. um, Endless YouTube, internet sort of resources, some paid and some free. I just absorb it, man. I'm just like a student nonstop,
Yeah, man.
learning a few different DAWs. Pro Tools and Logic are the primary ones that I use now.
Okay.
And it's yeah, I mean, I've now I'm, I feel like I can confidently build music from start to finish and do everything in the process, you know.
That's awesome.
So
I think it's what's cool about that, and just even talking to you for this little amount of time. And by the way, we're already almost at an hour, so I'm not going to keep you. But what I think is great, and what I'm picking up from just talking to you for this short amount of time, is the fact of how like hungry you are for knowledge, and how you take the time to want to learn these things because you want to master the craft, or at least get to the point where you can be a jack of all, master of none, but do it really friggin' well. And I know that business is, because I've done a couple sync things, and it is a quick turnaround sometimes.
man, it's really fun and crazy sometimes. There's some of the syncs that we've got, or we've created probably 30 songs and we've only gotten to sync maybe twice, so
Yeah.
that's the way it is sometimes. But we have this kind of little catalog that's fun to listen back on, and it's like, well, here's this 30-second piece we try to do for a commercial for Hershey's chocolate or something crazy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a few demos and we have this whole process. It's really awesome. Me and Dan and Howard Delugash is the third member of the Morning Moon music team. And I host sessions over my computer by running Zoom for dialogue and visual for everybody. And then I'll run Pro Tools or Logic with streaming software called Listen To is the one we use. And that basically sends a separate link to them that they can listen to straight out of the output of my DAW. So everything that I'm producing, they can hear it just like it's coming out of the DAW. And we're discussing, and we say, okay, Howard, we need a piano piece here. He'll take 5 minutes, go record a piano piece, send it over to me. I'll drop it in. We continue, we'll listen to, we're like, oh, dude, we need, a better sound and snare than that. And I'll run 17,000 snares. And we're just, over and over again, trying to figure out what we want. And we literally just will engineer and produce music all in different places. It's really, really fantastic.
Technology is super fun sometimes. And have you ever, experienced, because I think what some people may not know about that side of the industry is sometimes your client doesn't know what they want. And they're saying, this is this needs to be a folk thing or Americana. And then you send them something that's straight up Americana. And they're like, no, I don't like this. And then it ends up being friggin', Coldplay.
I like to say sometimes the hardest and most important part of my job is learning how to read between the lines. Yeah. Because it's exactly what you said, man. They don't know what they want or need, but they aren't going to come to you and say that. They're never going to do that. They're going to say, oh, it needs to be this, this, and this. And so a lot of times what we do is we will try to provide a couple demos of what they asked for, and then maybe we will provide a demo of what we feel is an improvement. And I think maybe we've gotten that selected one time possibly, but sometimes people just really know what they want, and it just depends on the chain of command too. If we're working with someone who's not making the decisions and they're saying, this is just I'm passing along the information that was told to me, they want specifically this song to sound like a Drake song, with a female vocalist or whatever, and we're like, okay, we'll do it. And so no matter what you do, if it doesn't sound like that, they're not even going to sort of propose it to the client, you know. So
yeah, that's fun though. It keeps you on your toes, right? That industry is really, I think, for people who can handle the pressure, which seems like you're just like, give it to me, I want it, like, you know.
oh dude, it's so fun. I love the challenge, you know. And it's like, what, dude, one of my favorite things about it is I have so many ideas, I have so many instruments, I have so many sounds, I have whatever, right? But if you can narrow it down and say like, all right, we need pirate music with an accordion and a mandolin, I'm like, dude, thank you for letting me focus squarely on something like very specific like that, because I can do my job like so much better versus going on this wild goose chase where I'm like, well, it could be literally anything. I only have 17,000 pianos like that I can pick from,
Right.
or whatever. So it's beautiful. It's kind of like when you're playing guitar, and you know, it's, God, what an awesome thing to have a pedal board full of beautiful sounds. But that one time where you actually just have to plug the guitar straight into the amp, and you're like, how can I create beautiful music now? And you're like, wow, I still can do it. I just have to approach it from a different place. And it's kind of like such a fun, freeing challenge to just not be like tied into all those decisions, right?
Option paralysis sometimes. It's just takes over. Well, that Heritage sounds like that would do that just fine, right? You just plug straight in, use your volume knob.
Well, you know, hey, it's not like I can get the sounds of this guitar. Let me just show you this thing before it gets too late. But this, check this puppy out. This is a Fender Custom Shop 51 no-caster. So so it's not an actual 51, it's custom shop. It was made about 2-3 years ago. And you know, the whole back of the neck's like sanded off. You know, it's got some real wear to it that the custom shop does. I guess they call that relicking, right? It's got little dents in it all over the place.
Yeah.
Man, what a beautiful instrument, dude. This was kind of a Morning Moon sort of investment. We were doing some sessions at East West Studio out in LA, and we were shooting some video and all this stuff, and the guitars we had were fine, but we were like, let's just make a long-term investment. Guitars are not going down in price, especially Fender custom shops, you know. So this puppy's is an asset, man. What a beautiful guitar.
And it's a tax write-off.
It's a tax write-off.
That's what I tell my wife. That's what I tell my wife all the time. And dude, my accountant is so funny. I've been going to this guy since before I was married to my wife. And this year, he said it again last year, but this year he did it. He's like, Mark, you didn't buy enough gear this year. And I was like, see, babe. So this year, I'm so glad you said that about the Heritage, because dude, I have Les Paul fever. And everyone lately has been telling me to get a Heritage, that they're so much better.
I wish you lived closer, not because I want to play that 2-rock, but because I want I want you to play this Heritage, man.
I'm coming to Asheville in 2 weeks. Oh no.
I think I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I'm here.
Right,
yeah, I'm coming to Asheville in 2 weeks because we're coming to visit for like spring break, and I'm actually going to. Are you hip to Headstrong amps?
I've heard of them. Don't they make like Fender copies, kind of?
Really good ones.
I've heard good things, but I've never played one.
He is in Asheville. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah,
I did not know that. There's another guy in Asheville that makes is it Port City amplification?
Yep, I've heard of them too. Yeah, I didn't know he was in Asheville
based. Dude, if you're going over to the shop and they're gonna let you bring an extra, well, I'd love to come with you.
Yeah, I'll let you know, because I'm going to shoot some video for my channel and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, but I'm definitely coming, because my whole family's going to the Biltmore. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm going to Wayne's. So, all right, well, let's do the lightning round get down. Let's get you out of here.
Love it.
All right, so I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and it's a this or that type of situation. We're going to cruise at a lovely altitude of 112 BPM. I don't know why. It's just always been 112. If you want,
Okay.
you can explain your answers. You do not have to, but if you want to, you are welcome.
Okay.
First one is always the same: Lennon or McCartney.
Ooh, I'm gonna go with Lennon for the for Imagine, even if nothing else.
Okay. Pretzels or peanuts?
I gotta go Pretzels.
Okay. Delay pedal, digital or analog?
I mean, analog for the sound, digital for the flexibility.
Okay. Spring or fall?
Spring.
Okay. You have your last meal. You're on death row. What's your meal?
It's gotta be just some lovely pizza or maybe like lasagna or something Italian comfort food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Amp wise, high headroom or fast breakup?
It depends. Probably fast breakup because, yeah, I don't know. It's too hard. Both. It's
Okay.
both.
Okay. On the playground as a kid, on the monkey bars or on the swings?
Swings.
Okay. Comedy or drama?
Drama.
Okay.
Drama. Yeah. I'm a
Okay.
dramatic guy.
Yeah, there you go. Humbuckers or P90s?
I just love some humbuckers lately.
Yeah, seems like
Yeah.
it.
That
Run.
answer would change often over the years, but going buckers.
Just run with it. Sounds great. All right, here's the last one, Mike. If you could take one record and erase it from your memory, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what record would that be?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Man, Dark Side reigns supreme so much. So many people have said that. Tell me your reason.
Oh, dude, the first time I heard the album front to back was in college. My good buddy Nate would we'd go to the herbal expedition, if you know what I mean, and throw on some records, and it was such a visceral experience, like the story, the most beautiful journey, from front to back, just soaring through space and running through the jungle and swinging on vines and just plunging into beautiful waters, and I just the most beautiful journey I can ever remember experiencing from music was when I one of the few first times I heard that album, really.
Yeah, fair enough, man.
It just transported me so well. And I'm such a music person versus lyrics. They say there's two types of people. There's one that hear the music, and there's ones that hear the lyrics. And it's music for me first. I don't really absorb the lyrics until I've heard the song a handful of times, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's like vibe. It's what pulls me in is the sound and the melodies and the soundscape and the grooves, and then the hooks of the melody, and then last is the lyrics. Honestly, that's the last thing for me.
Yeah, that's why we stuck with Fish for so long.
Hey, I'm not.
Now Marshall's great, but
Thank you.
What if you had to put up Comfortably Numb and Time, like those two solos? Which would win? For you?
I don't know. Those are the two, though. You nailed it. You freaking nailed it. Time is, to me, was the one that was just a little more dark in this way, that like I felt hit me in a deeper place. Comfortably Numb was just like so perfect. It just lives in this perfect place. But there's been occasions where I'd listen to that in headphones, and it like there's a darkness to it that it just was maybe I guess I'll have to go with Time, but there's definitely no wrong answer there for sure.
Yeah. Well, Mike, dude, I so appreciate you doing this show and hanging out and talking about all this stuff. I mean, you got so much going on, man. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it one more time. please go buy some Dangermuffin stuff. They got vinyl, got cool t-shirts. I just bought this vinyl and a t-shirt like a month ago. So go do that and listen to the music. It's just great. It's if you're into just really good feeling music with talented musicians, great grooves, great vocals, you got to go listen to Dangermuffin. And anybody that's listening on Spotify or Apple Music, dangermuffinmusic.com is the band's website. And anything else, Mike? Anything else to tell the people before we head out?
Man, I'm just so excited to get back to playing some music. It's been a slow winter, and I just had a baby.
Congrats again.
About 4 weeks ago. So I'm kind of in the dregs of babiness, getting not enough sleep. So I'm just super excited to get back out and be playing some music, man. So
awesome.
let's do this thing.
Heck yeah. Well, Mike, hang out 1 second. Everybody else, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we will see you next time.